So, good day everyone. So, for today, I will be discussing what global governance is all about. So, global governance means and how it works in our world today or in our contemporary world. So, let's begin with a simple idea. So, governance basically means that it is the way something is managed or governed. So, naay nagagovern siya or naga-manage. Muna siya ginatawag na itong governance. So, when we say global governance, we're talking about how the world is managed or governed as a whole. So, ang global governance, muna na siya ginatawag na to o kani ginamanage siya as a whole. So yeah, ayon kay Finkelstein's definition 1995, kaning according to Lawrence, ayang full name is Lawrence Finkelstein. So global governance is all about kaning doing internationally what governments do at home. So in simple words, so what does that mean? So yeah, in simple word kaning, we all know that a government manages its country so that it makes laws. So nagahimo siya laws, kaning keeps peace, so nagadu siya peace and collects taxes, provides services and solves national problems. So ayon kay Frankenstein, so nagasolve daw problems ang nation or government. So when we talk about global governance, it's like countries working together to manage global problems. So pag natawag na to global governance, kaning magtinabangay sila aron masolban nila ang problem sa isa ka nation or as a whole. So yeah, for example, climate change. So nana siya global kaning mga problems, and then kinasolve siya dili lang kay sa isa ka country, pero apila ang tanan kay kaning connected man ang all, kay dami man pud kay dili lang pud kay sa isa ka country nga maka og climate change, pero as a whole. So yeah, no single country can handle this problems alone. So through global governance, nations can cooperate. So just like a government does things at home. So but this time on a worldwide scale. Yeah. And next is number 2 is Weiss, Thomas, and Oskerson's definition of global governance 2009. So according to Weiss, Thomas, and Oskerson, global governance refers to the intricate and constantly changing interactions among sovereign states, markets, and civil society. Let's break that down. So global governance is not just about countries. So just like what I said kanina, like it's not just about the country, but it's about how different players in the world work together and influence each other. So it's about influencing each other. So dili lang ka siya sa isa ka country, but you need to influence the other country in order for us to cooperate as one. So sovereign states, so it is independent countries like the Philippines, Japan, or the US. And then there are also markets. So kaning markets, this include global businesses and the world economy. So yeah, so next is the civil society. So what is civil society? So civil society, this includes people's organization like NGOs, and social movements that promote certain causes like human rights or environmental protection. So yeah, that is all about. So these groups, so ang kaning groups naga-interact siya o naga-cooperate siya para masulban ang isang problema or problema nga nakaapekto sa tanan. So pangkalahatan siya. So dili lang siya sa isa but as a whole. So that's why global governance is what we call intricate and constantly changing simply because relationships between countries, so ang relation sa countries from one country to another, and also the businesses and its people are always evolving. So we as a human, we are also evolving as same as our world that we are living in. So number 3, governance beyond a single state. So another way to describe kaning global governance is that, oh my gosh, sorry, it is governance beyond a single state. So mo-describe na siya og beyond a single state. So ang kasagutan niya, this means that it's not just one government. So balik-balik na siya ang ginaingon, one government or one country making decisions, but to the entire country. So yeah, dili lang ka siya isa. So instead, it is a shared effort among many countries and organizations. So it's not just about the effort of one country, but also to another country to make it to manage world affairs together. So it is about helping from one country to another. So for example, the what do you call this one? The United Nations helps countries to discuss peace, di ba? Naga-discuss man peace ang United Nations and also security. And second example is the WHO or the World Health Organization. So ang kanina siyang organization naga-coordinate siya ang global health responses. So naga-tackle siya mga global issues, like health issues like that, and also the World Trade Organization. So ang kanina siyang organization naga-manage siya of trade rules among nations. So yeah, so all of these are examples of how governance happens beyond one nation on a global level. So yeah, so that is my report all about. There is one pa. So fourth is the Nicholas Rose's idea 2013. So his idea or yung defines sa global governance is government at a distance. Now according to Nicholas Rose 2013, globalization has brought about what he calls government at a distance. So mo na yung pag-define sa global governance. So what does this mean? Unsay pasabot ani? Unsay pasabot ni ani? So ang kani siya ginapasabot siya, or it means that in today's world, some global actors like international organizations, corporations, or even foreign governments can influence others. So ang kanis lang ang mga kuan kay maka-influence siya sa other countries from afar. So without being what do you call this one, physically present. So nag-influence siya or nag-ano siya kaning like dili in the need of physical presence. So for example, the World Health Organization or the WHO. So WHO can give health recommendations that many countries follow. So that is all about. So to summarize what we've tackled or what I've tackled, or so what we've learned. So global governance means managing global issues through cooperation, unity among countries, and other actors. So, wala siya guys. So, global governance means that muna siya ang pagtinambangay sa not just one country but as from one country to another, like like the Philippines, the China, America, like dili lang kay na siya nga ang kaning Philippines lang ang mag-solve sa kaning world problem but also the other countries as well. So that is global governance all about. So thank you, and I hope that you've learned something from me, and Miss Barwiz will be the next presenter. Thank you.
Concept of governance is how societies address problems through structured interactions such as decision-making processes and establishment of institutions. It functions local, national, and global. For example, local level. A barangay council in Davao City implements waste management policies. So, mao to siyang example sa local. Then sa national is the Philippine government creating laws that improve education para sa toa. Then, ang example for global is United Nations setting standards for human rights. Global governance involves international cooperation to tackle issues that across borders such as pandemic, climate change. Entities involved. These include states like international organizations like UN, World Bank, and non-governmental organizations and private entities. Purpose to share and solve the challenges through negotiated norms and institutions without forming a single global government. Example, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, where countries commit reducing emissions. Another example, the World Health Organization Response International, katong example tong pandemic.
So good day everyone. So now we're gonna talk about the brief history of the international system. So when we say brief history of the international system, it is all about talking about the big neighborhood with many countries. For each country, it has a own country with no interfered with others. But things change over time. So over time mag-change ang murag implementation on how the nation change ang ilahang rules and even sa ilahang country. So the first is the Westphalian system on the 1648, like each country having their own house, like a specific na to siya, which is country. An example is house. So first is we call sovereignty. So example, think about of each family, which is a country. Like they're having their own houses, which is no other family can barge in to tell them what to do. So that is called, so when we say sovereignty is, it is called nga dili makialam ang another country sa another country, because sila in this year of 1648 sa ilahang implementation sa sovereignty na dili makialam ang other country sa other country. So that's we call sovereignty. Then no meddling. When we say no meddling, it is you can interfere with another country, which is kung naay problema ang another country, dili makialam ang another country. And in case na lang kung ang katong country mangutana sila og what to do ug unsaon nila pag-solve ato na problem. kung in case mga sila favor sa another country. Pero pag if na ay problem ang isa ka country, dili na nila need makialam kay problema na to sa country. So next is the balance of the powers. So when we say the balance of the power, this is one down when no single family becomes too strong and controls for everyone. Like ilang implement na everyone will be equal. And they have power na dapat pantay-pantay lang sila, dili sila magpakikitaas. So that's we call balance of power. And that is the discussion with all about Westphalian system in 1648. Next is the Concert of Europe of 1815. This is the elders holding a meeting, and then the first thing na ilang Dria in this year of 1815, which is meeting. Like after a big mess or which is a war, like ang mga elders magpa-implement sila og agree og peace para malikayan ang gubot. Maghimo sila og meeting like for sa ilang organization o sa ilang country para in case for the war, ilahang sabutan ko unsay dapat nilang storyahan para dili magkagubot ang ilahang country. And next is diplomacy, peaceful talk. So when we say diplomacy, it is called peaceful talk. So they talk calmly so no one will dominate others. So silang pag-meeting, magstorya sila og tarong because kung magstorya sila og tarong, they will have a peace sa ilahang pag-meeting sa ilang organization because that gives a peaceful for their country. Alliances and teamwork. They form group to protect each other if someone attacks. So, nice po kayo lahang implementation in this year because they have teamwork na maghimo sila og group protect each other para kung naay mag-attack sa ilaha, mag-form sila og grupo. And that's we called in this year Concert of Europe of 1815. Next is post WW to multilateralism or 1940s, like building a neighborhood association, which is United Nations. Like after a World War II, they created a big organization or United Nation where all country could join. So nice kayo because after the World War II, mag-create sila og organization which is a United Nation nga all country could join. Then teamwork. They also made banks like World Banks, IMF para mag-help sila sa other countries kung need nila tabangan. Magnasilay ka ng banks na which is it can help for the another country nga which is in times of needs matabangan nila tong countries nga kailangan nila og mga foods and then everything na needs nila sa ilahang disaster na nahitabo sa ilaha. Then next is the rights. They made everyone has right and treated equally. So, which is, dito sila pantay-pantay. Kay tanang tao dito which is pantay-pantay, they have power or rights nga everyone will have rights to treated equally. So, the change before each country acted alone, now they work together to solve problems that one country can fix alone, like climate change or pandemic. So from having their own country, they now covered for the good for everyone. So for that implementation, they do that because they want everyone to be safe, they want everyone to be equal and have rights for their own goods because everyone is equal, and it discussed there that all by years will be changed, but the implementation will be continued on how they can hold their own country. And that's for all. That is the explanation about the brief history of the international system, and I thank you.
So now let's talk about rules and functions of the United Nations. So the United Nations or UN was founded on October 24, 1945 after World War II. Its main purpose is to promote international cooperation, peace, and prevent future conflicts. It replaced the League of Nations, which failed to stop wars before. The name United Nations was first used by U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1942. When it started, the UN or United Nations had 50 member states. Now it has 193 member states and 2 observer states, the Holy See and Palestine. The United Nations has several main goals. First is maintain international peace and security. Second is protect human rights. Third is promote social and economic development. Fourth is environmental sustainability. Lastly is provide humanitarian aid during crises like wars or natural disasters. The United Nations has 6 main parts, but only 5 are active today. First is General Assembly, main policy-making body where all members meet and vote. Ito ang parang pulong ng lahat ng bansa kung saan pinag-uusapan ang mga global issues. Second is Security Council, handles peace and security. Third is Economic and Social Council or ECOSOC, promotes global economic and social cooperation. Fourth is Secretariat, administrative body led by the Secretary General. Next is International Court of Justice, ICJ, judicial organ that settles legal disputes between countries. Last is Trusteeship Council, inactive since 1994. The Secretary General, currently Antonio Guterres from Portugal, has served since January 1, 2017. He acts as the Chief Administrative Officer of the United Nations. The United Nations Charter is the foundational treaty that outlines the organization's purposes, principles, and structure. That's all.
Challenges of good global governance in the 21st century. Ang United Nations o UN ay umaasa sa voluntaryong pagtutulungan ng mga bansa. Pero may 5 critical gaps na humahadlang. Una, knowledge gap, kakulangan sa shared at actionable data. Just like pandemic trackings, climate science, naglilimit ito sa cross-border collaboration at evidence-based policy. Ang halimbawa nito ay hirap na pag-solve ng mga problema dahil walang sapat na impormasyon. Ang pangalawang hadlang ay ang normative gap. Nagkakabangga ang global norms, human rights, climate action at ang rising nationalism or protectionism. Challenge dito is yung norms ay nagdedecade dahil walang active defense at adaptation. Number 3, policy making gap. Nagkokontrahan ang interes ng mga bansa at hindi kasama ang civil society, kaya walang consensus. Example nito ay delay sa pag-address ng crisis like refugee flows. Pang-apat, policy implementation gap. Mahina ang enforcement ng UN policies like human rights violation. Ang issue nito ay umaasa sa underfunded agency like UNHCR at discretion ng bawat estado. Ang panglima naman ay compliance gap. Binabaliwala ng mga estado ang rules or walang kapasidad sumunod like terrorism sanctions, climate pledges. Example nito ay ang patuloy ang cross-border movement ng extremist groups kahit may Security Council resolutions. Interrogated challenges. Knowledge gaps to poor norms, ineffective policies, weak implementation, and non-compliance. Dagdag pa ang non-sovereign status ng UN ay nagpapahirap dahil mas pinapahalaga ng mga estado ang kanilang sovereignty kaysa collective action. Challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic o ang mga hamon sa panahon ng COVID-19. Unang-una, nagkakaroon tayo ng global health crisis. Milyon-milyong tao ang nahahawaan at daan-daang libo ang namamatay sa buong mundo. Isa itong transnational threat. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang isang bansa ang apektado. Kailangan ng global response at nakita natin ang mga structural weaknesses sa global governance. Nagsimula ang COVID-19 sa Wuhan, China at kumalat sa buong mundo. Iba-iba ang naging approach ng bawat bansa sa pagmamanage ng pandemic. Pero, naging malinaw ang global epidemiological interdependence. Ibig sabihin, konektado ang kalusugan ng bawat bansa. Yan ang natawag nating spread and impact. Necessity for cooperation. Kailangan ng cooperative spirit sa pagitan ng mga national government, regional organizations at international institutions. Essential o kailangan ang pagtutulungan para ma-mitigate o mabawasan ang epekto ng outbreak at para hindi ito lalong lumala. Reliance on technology. Malaki ang naging reliance natin sa technology, lalo na sa artificial intelligence o AI, para makahanap ng solusyon. Ginamit ang digital technologies para mapanatili ang business as usual kahit may lockdowns. Pero may risk din tulad ng misinformation, cyber attacks at privacy human rights violations dahil sa under-regulation. Dahil alam naman natin na hindi natin mapapagkatiwalaan ng buo ang AI sapagkat hindi ito totoong tao ang nag-iisip. Pwede itong maging dahilan o maging source na mag-scam or ano pang mga bagay na mangyari sa atin na hindi maganda. Governmental measures and risk. Nagkaroon ng travel restrictions na pagbabago sa refugee at migration governance. Maraming marginalized population ang naging vulnerable sa biosecurity threats. May mga government din ang naglimit ng movement at nag-declare ng state of emergency na challenging sa rule of law. Nahirapan tayong magpalipat-lipat ng lugar doon during the pandemic kasi kapag nandoon tayo sa isang lugar na mayroon ng virus na pandemic, pwede tayong mahawaan. Kaya, mas lalo itong kakalat. Kaya, ang mga ginawa ng government natin noon is gina-secure nila ang atong safety o mas gina-priority nila nga dili kaysa maglaag-laag ta, magpundo na lang sa balay para mas dili mo lala or mukalat ang COVID-19. Sa kabuuan, ang COVID-19 pandemic ay isang global crisis na nagpakita ng weaknesses na sa governance, nangangailangan ng international cooperation at nagbigay ng technological solutions. Gayunpaman, may risk din ito sa marginalized population at sa rule of law. Maraming aral tayong natutunan sa pandemic na ito. Sana magamit natin mga ito para maging mas handa sa mga susunod na hamon.
So, good evening everyone. I am Jordan Biba and this is the conclusion of our report. So, state sovereignty and global governance. So, despite concerns about globalization, enduring sovereignty, the nation-state remains the central actor in international domestic affairs. Global governance frameworks are desired by states to address these shared challenges, core responsibilities, security, protection from threats, and public service like healthcare, education, social services, critical role in providing affordable social services, especially in the 20th century. So, bisan pag kanang global kaayo ang kanang kalibutan, and tagsa-tagsa nga kanang nasod gihapon ang main character sa pagdala sa ilahang kaugalingon. So ang gobyerno pagyapon ang kanang naga-decide sa kanang balaod, security o kanang serbisyo para sa mga tao. Pero kinahanglan magtinabangay gihapon sila intentionally kung naay global problem like pandemic or climate change. So example is COVID-19. So ang Pilipinas gihapon ang kanang nagaset sa kanang health protocol o kanang lockdown rules like bisan sa kanang global viruses, local government paghihapon ang kanang ni control sa mga lakang sa kanang nasod. So next is globalization does not diminish state relevance. Instead, it pressures states or strengthen governance to avoid dimension or other states. Jones 2000. So, strong domestic institution, infrastructures, and equitable safety nets and prerequisites for society to benefit from globalization. So ang globalization is dili nagkapasabot nga mawala. So ang power sa usa ka nasod, pero gapush niya ang mga mahimong lig-on ug maayo mo manage ang gobyerno. Kinahanglan magpabilin nga stable ang sistema sa kanang politika, education o kanang ekonomiya para makasabay o maka-benefits ang kanang global competition. So examples like tan-awan ninyo ang kanang Singapore, like bisan gamay ra ang kanang ilahang nasod pero tungod sa kanang strong ilahang sistema o kanang mga laws, naka-adjust sila sa global trade o kanang technology. Wala sila nadalas sa kanang impluwensya sa kanang uban. So next is needs for global governance. So good governance ensures globalization benefits both developed and developing nations. State must address local economic problems and leverage local resources pools to remain effective. So kung gusto nga makuha ang kanang tinuod nga benefits sa kanang globalization, like kinahanglan maayo ug limpyo ang kanang pamalaod. So dili pwede nga kanang sa kanang global lang ang focus. Dapat kanang apilan gihapon ang local issues sama sa poverty, education o kanang employment o kanang maayong gobyerno kabalo mo gamit sa sakto nga resources para both rich and developing. Kanang both developing countries ang makasabay. So example is kung ang Pilipinas mag-focus sa kanang improve sa trabaho skills like TESDA programs, mas daghang Pilipinas ang maka-work abroad o maka-start og business. That's how good governance help us compete globally. So that's all. Thank you.